Well, thank you for tuning in to this introduction meeting about the MSc in Global History at the University of Glasgow. So why come to the University of Glasgow? So Glasgow's been named the top UK city for creativity and culture. That was from the European Commission in 2019. It's UK's first UNESCO city of music, and I can attest that the music scene here in Glasgow is fantastic. And there are more than 20 fantastic museums and galleries in the city of Glasgow. That's particularly relevant to the Global MSc for reasons that you'll find out later on in this presentation. It was ruled by Time Out magazine 2019 as one of the world's friendliest and most affordable cities. You can see a picture in the background of the slide there of the Kelvingrove Art Museum, which has really kind of fabulous collections, and it's backing onto the Kelvingrove Park there, where there's also live music events in the summer, and gives you an indication that it really is a fantastic city to come and live and work and study in. So what about the University of Glasgow, which the Glasgow city is home to? Well, it's one of the oldest in Europe. It was established in 1451, particularly relevant to us here as historians. It's a really historic institution. It's ranked in the world's top 100 universities, so a world-leading university, and it's second in the Russell Group for teaching and student satisfaction. It won University of the Year in 2020, and it has around 29,000 students from around 140 countries. So a very vibrant, international and diverse place to work. So if you did come to study at the University of Glasgow for the Global MSc, you'd be based in the College of Arts. That is ranked 62 for the arts and humanities, according to the QS World Rankings 2020. And the College of Arts is home to 10 specialist research centres. These include the centres of slavery studies, of gender and of war, amongst others. So it's a real hub of learning, interdisciplinary learning, and these centres put on different research events throughout the year, and we'll say some more of that during the course of this presentation. The College of Arts also has world-leading collections and access to world-leading collections. So the library, for example, is not only home to the full collection of books that you would expect, but also special collections of documents and very wide-ranging documents that are available in special collections. And during the course of the Global MSc, you'll have a chance to visit the special collections in the library and to learn more about the special holdings of the library. Speaking to my own research, for example, I can tell you that, so I work on the Spanish Empire, and there's a manuscript known as the Tlaxcala Codex, which is a 16th century manuscript from Mexico that's home in the special collections in Glasgow. And you find that collections from all over the world end up in special collections in Glasgow and elsewhere in the city. And you can use these as part of your material for your course. So in addition to these world-leading collections, there's also a really thriving postgraduate community with over 800 postgraduate students. This is just only in the College of Arts. So you can see it's a really thriving community. The MSc in Global History, why do it here at Glasgow? Well, it's an opportunity to study global history in a global city. And we'll have a chance to reflect on some of the ways in which Glasgow became a global city in the course of the MSc in Global History. It's an excellent environment for students wanting to develop their skills as independent researchers, and you'll have a chance to talk about that further in the courses that will prepare you for the independent research that you will undertake with the dissertation. So research skills for historians, for example, is one of the themes of one of the core modules in the course that I'll say a little bit more about in a moment. And you'll also have access to those special collections, the library, and as well as the courses that will prepare you for ways in which you might access these materials here in Glasgow. And this prepares you for your independent research that's part of the MSc in Global History. You'll be prepared by doing this course for a professionalized career in a globalized world, although also the MSc in Global History will prompt you to critically reflect on the meaning of globalization and its causes and effects and how it's changed over time, to really historicize this concept of globalization, which you're no doubt familiar with, but will become more deeply familiar with through the course of the program. So how is the program structured? The program has a clear three-part structure, which is focused on history training from a global dimension. So there are three core courses. One of these is Doing History, and that's the course that all people taking their MSc in History at the University of Glasgow in the College of Humanities will take. And that course offers you things like research skills for historians, different things about methodologies, about accessing archives and sources. And it's an important place to meet other colleagues on the course as well, to build that kind of sense of community that's so important to your studies here at the University of Glasgow. There are two more further core courses that are specific to the MSc in Global History. One of those is Exploring Global History. Now, in this, we take a series of different thematic approaches, looking at a kind of reading group approach to doing global history, thinking about how different historians have approached the subject and the pros and cons of their different approaches. And so the format of that is that you study one book per week, and that might sound like a lot, but it offers important insights into the way that global history is written, so we can then hone in and thinking about the methodologies, about narrativity, and so on. Now, I'll take one quotation from the feedback from that course. One student wrote, "I really enjoyed the book review per week structure. At first I was apprehensive, as I thought reading a book a week might be just too much. However, I think it taught us well how to read a book under time pressures and be able to pull out its main themes and ideas. Having now read at least 10 important global history books, I feel like I have a good broad understanding. I feel well placed to talk about global history, and I do not think this would necessarily be the case had we done more traditional focused article reading." So you can see that the approach may seem daunting at first, but has been really beneficial and paid dividends for the students who've taken that course. The second core module, which you do in the second semester, is called Global History through Local Archives. And having prepared the foundations for the theoretical and methodological understanding of what it is to do global history in the first part of the course, you'll then put some of that training into practice in the second part of the course. Now, in that second part of the course, in the Global History through Local Archives module, you'll have the chance to go into local archives and do what's called a hackathon. Now, this means that you work with the curators and with your colleagues to look at different objects that have been pre-selected by the curators of those particular collections. And then you'll be able to analyze and respond and think about how you would use those objects or documents to write a global history. So drawing together kind of information that you learned in the first part of the course and putting it into practice in this really engaging way in the second part of the course. That part of the course has been really popular with students, and it's an opportunity to visit places where they're holding documents and objects across the city of Glasgow. And it's an opportunity to really engage hands-on with what it is to do global history. So in addition to the three core modules, you also can take optional courses. And here are some examples of optional courses on the slides here. So courses such as commodity histories in the Global South, the Global Cold War, and then my own module, which is on the slide here, the Global History of Inequalities. In this module, the Global History of Inequalities, we think about the historic pathways to global inequality and looking at challenging pre-existing ideas around climate, geography, and civilization, and looking at new theories of the role that capitalism, colonialism, law, and markets have played in creating the historic pathways to globalization. And I can attest this is a really fun and engaging course that gets students debating on a wide range of issues. There are other modules that you could take as part of this on slavery and forced migration or violence in the colonial encounter. So these are just a short selection of the courses available. For better understanding of the full course catalogue, you can consult the online course catalogue or look at the University of Glasgow history web pages. In addition to these core courses and the optional courses, you will undertake a dissertation. Now, the dissertation is a wonderful opportunity to do a substantial piece of independent research, and you'll be guided through this by the expert staff that are at the University of Glasgow. So I should have introduced myself at the start. I'm Dr. Julia McClure, and I'm a global historian specialising in the Spanish Empire, and I have broad interests in the history of colonialism, poverty, inequality, indigenous communities, and I focus on Latin America in particular. And there are many other staff at the university with different specialisms, and you'll be able to find somebody working on the topic that you're interested in to help you craft and shape a research topic, think about the sources that are available, and to develop that research project. If anyone's thinking about going on to do a PhD or further research, this is really fantastic preparation to do this dissertation, which gives you a chance to follow your interests and explore a substantial piece of historical research. In this research project, you can use items from the collections that you may have become familiar with during the core courses, so objects and documents here in the University of Glasgow or in the collections roundabout in the city of Glasgow. But there are also fantastic online collections from other parts of the country and indeed other parts of the world. And your tutors and the staff that are here will help guide you to access the primary sources that are necessary to craft and shape and develop that piece of independent research. It's a really fantastic opportunity and a chance to discuss and work with the colleagues here at the University of Glasgow. So how will you be taught at the University of Glasgow on the MSc in Global History? Well, all of those modules that I just mentioned have the format of small group seminars. And that's really beneficial because it gives you a chance to meet the other students taking the same course and to build a sense of community around your subject. And that sense of community is really important, somebody to share ideas with and to discuss your research with. To have a group of peers from an early stage is very important. And the seminar structure here at the Global MSc really supports that development of small communities through the seminars. When you do the other history core course, you have chance to meet more history PGTs beyond people just taking the MSc in global history. And that's great to see people working on different aspects of history that you can also talk to there. As I mentioned, the other core module is based on the format of the hackathon, and that is when you'll go to the different museum collections or the libraries or different institutional sites around Glasgow and have the opportunity to meet with curators, to go along with staff and your fellow students, and to look at the different objects and documents discussing global history and the way that you could use those objects and documents to write global history. So quite an innovative opportunity there that's unique to this programme at the University of Glasgow. There's also the opportunity to attend research seminars and visiting speaker series. And that's something that I would always encourage all of the students at the University of Glasgow to do, because hearing from experts in the field, of which there are many at the University of Glasgow and many invited speakers also, is a great way to learn about the important work going on in the discipline and to give you ideas for different ways of thinking about your subjects and development of your research projects. So I run the Global History Research Cluster, for example, and that is an example of one of the clusters available at the University of Glasgow in the College of Humanities. I mentioned earlier that the centres that it also supports fantastic research and invited speakers. I've given you the website address on the slide there, and you also have if you go to that website, you can see some of the work that's been going on. So with this year, it was the COP26 at Glasgow City. And so we had a special theme around global environmental history and climate change, and ran a number of events around global environmental history and how it affects people in different parts of the world. And they were really stimulating opportunities to discuss causes and consequences of climate change with people from around the world. And that's an example of the kind of research community that you would be involved in when you're taking up the MSc in Global History here at Glasgow. So do consult the web pages and see the important work going on and what you can get involved with here at Glasgow. So the University of Glasgow MSc in Global History has a number of special features. It focuses on social history, also different dimensions of history, intellectual, economic, and particularly gender history is a strong focus here. We're focusing on doing global history from the perspective of the global south, and many of us have been working on decolonial approaches to global history for a number of years now, and have been reflecting on ways in which we can decolonize the curriculum, use global history to decolonize the curriculum, decolonize global history itself, and so on, thinking about the perspectives of the global south at the forefront of that. There are also a number of interdisciplinary choices that you can take. I would always argue as a global historian that global history is by necessity interdisciplinary. And I know that courses that I teach, one undergraduate, for example, is on the global history of giving, from begging to basic income. And it really is a very interdisciplinary approach, looking at anthropology, law, economics, theology, and so on, and seeing what the picture of global giving looks like from these different interdisciplinary perspectives. So that's one of the special features of courses here at the University of Glasgow. And these, I'm giving you examples here from my own teaching and research, but of course there are many different staff members that have their own approaches and specialisms that make this such an enriching programme to be part of. Further special opportunities for taking the MSc in Global History here at the University of Glasgow would be the opportunity to collaborate with local archives, libraries and museums. And this is particularly important during those hackathons that I just mentioned. You'll have opportunities to visit places such as the Scottish Business Archive, the Hunterian Museum, the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons. And this is an opportunity for real hands-on learning. So these pictures you see on the slide here were taken, I took these pictures in a hackathon that took place on Tuesday in the Hunterian Museum with the current cohort of MSc students. And there were really fantastic objects that we had chance to engage with as part of this hackathon. The theme for that particular one was on Latin America, and you can see the object in the center here was a teapot made by Franciscan nuns in the 19th century that had been found in the collections in Glasgow. And the students looked at this and a number of other objects and thought about how they could use such objects to write a global history. There were also coins on display there using the silver from the Americas, and students drew upon their knowledge about the global economy from the earlier part of their course in order to critically engage with those different objects. So it was a really stimulating event, part of the core course, the global history through local archives, and that's an example of one of the hackathons that you could be involved in this course. Here are some examples of the different global history lecturers that you could be taught by. You can see myself on the slide there, and as I say, I specialise in the Spanish Empire and late medieval and early modern periods, and environmental history, Indigenous history, a broad range of topics. But if you go online and look at the profiles of the different colleagues you see listed here, you'll see a wide range of interests. There's many of these colleagues work on Africa, for example. We have strong expertise in the history of the Atlantic world, of Africa, of Latin America, and global processes, the history of capitalism, the history of global environment, the history of global commodity exchange, the history of global food pathways, and so on. It just takes to go and look at the profiles of these scholars on the slide here to know the kinds of people who'll be teaching you and who could supervise your project. So finally, some good feedback from the Global History MSc students. In the last course that we had, the MSc student said the discussions and reading material were insightful, and I was able to view elements of history in a way that I had never considered before, and it was a very interesting course. There were well-chosen books that perfectly covered the important tasks of global history. The tutors were very nice, answering questions with vast patience and expertise. So you can see great feedback from our student cohort here who've really enjoyed the core modules, the opportunities that working at on the Global MSc has offered to the students here. So thank you for your attention. We're welcoming, supportive and approachable, and so please don't hesitate to get in touch. My email address is on the slide if you have any questions about anything you've heard in this presentation or about the programme. Thank you very much.